The renowned millionaire businessman Nathan Westbrook had always had everything money could buy. Influential and extremely private, Nathan kept his personal life tightly guarded, even holding his family relationships at a distance. In his obsessive pursuit of success and power, he sacrificed friendships and distanced himself from anything that might threaten his empire. His public appearances were rare, and when they did occur, he made a point of maintaining the image of someone cold, devoid of any apparent emotional ties. At an annual charity event he sponsored in Los Angeles, Nathan, as usual, arrived discreetly, performing the welcome rituals and avoiding unnecessary interactions. But that night, something unusual happened. A girl just 7 years old with an intense gaze and an air of curiosity approached him in the crowd. It was as if she already knew him from somewhere. Without hesitation, she said, "I know you. Your picture is in my dad's wallet." Nathan froze. How could a child know something so personal? There was something both familiar and unsettling in the girl's words, and he couldn't stop thinking about the implications. The girl who had approached Nathan was intriguing. Small and wide-eyed, she looked at him with the confidence of someone who already knew him, though her childlike gaze held a strange depth, as if she knew secrets Nathan himself hadn't dared to explore. Her natural curiosity shone through in every gesture. She continued to watch him, as if waiting for an answer. Nathan, however, wasn't someone easily shaken. He had faced complex negotiations and rivals who would stop at nothing, yet the child's words left him unsettled. His first instinct was to ignore her and move on, but something about the way she said, "Your picture is in my dad's wallet," echoed in his mind, like a lost memory. He looked away and asked, "Who is your father?" His voice sounded steady, though inside he was filled with doubt. "My dad's name is Daniel. He said you're important and that someday you'd tell me everything." The girl replied with a soft smile. The name Daniel stirred something within him. Years ago, he had lost contact with the only friend he truly trusted, Daniel Thompson. Daniel had been like a brother to him in their youth. They had shared dreams, secrets, and even failures. But Nathan's life had taken a path that pulled him away from everything, including his friendship with Daniel. Nathan knew his friend had married and started a family, but they had never reconnected after their falling out, and he believed that part of his life was buried forever. "And where is your dad now?" Nathan asked, now with a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. The girl just lowered her head, suddenly looking sad, and answered, "He said he was going away for a while, but I don't know when he'll come back." A silence fell over Nathan. Could it be possible that Daniel had kept something so personal? Why would he carry a photo of him? He found himself standing before a child who stirred a storm of conflicting emotions. The details of her face reminded him of Daniel in a way that was almost painful, making it clear that she could indeed be his daughter. Nathan struggled to maintain his composure, but he knew there was something important behind this situation. Determined to get answers, Nathan asked his assistant to find any available information on Daniel Thompson. That same night, he was informed of something disturbing. Daniel had disappeared 2 months ago without a trace. The police had found his car abandoned near a lake on the city's outskirts, with no signs of struggle or any clue as to where he might be. The investigation had stalled, and Daniel was officially considered missing. Nathan felt a heaviness in his chest. He now had a responsibility to care for this child, at least until his friend's whereabouts could be uncovered. But why would Daniel have involved him in such an indirect way? Could this be some kind of silent plea for help? In the days that followed, Nathan took on the responsibility of looking after the girl, named Emma, while he searched for clues about Daniel. Though he was used to handling challenging situations in the business world, having a child in his life was something entirely new. Emma was cheerful and curious, but seemed to carry a quiet sadness, as if she knew more than she was letting on. Nathan was determined to understand why Daniel had involved him so mysteriously. As he attempted to connect with Emma, he began to discover small details that Daniel had left behind. Among the girl's belongings, he found a necklace with a pendant Daniel always wore, and a letter carefully folded and tucked inside Emma's coat pocket. Upon opening it, he realized the letter seemed to be a message left for him. In it, Daniel had written just a few lines. "Nathan, if you're reading this, it means I need your help more than ever. I know we've drifted apart, but I've always trusted you. Protect Emma. Don't leave her alone. She's all I have left." Those words felt heavy, too significant for Nathan to ignore. He knew Daniel wouldn't entrust his daughter to him without a serious reason, but what kind of threat was looming over Daniel? And now, potentially, his own life. In a casual conversation, Emma mentioned that before disappearing, her father had taken her to a special place, a secluded cabin where he had told her they were safe. Intrigued, Nathan pressed Emma for more details, but all she could recall was a path lined with tall trees and a lake in the distance. To him, this description was familiar. Years ago, he and Daniel had spent summers at a cabin just like that in a remote area. Determined to investigate, Nathan organized a trip with Emma to that very cabin. Upon arriving, Nathan noticed that the place was exactly as he remembered, but there was an invisible tension in the air. The cabin was dusty, with a few objects out of place, suggesting someone had been there recently. While Emma explored the place with childlike curiosity, Nathan found a safe hidden beneath the floorboards of the main bedroom. There was a combination lock, and he tried to remember something Daniel might have used as a code. After several attempts, he succeeded. It was Emma's birth date. Inside the safe, he found a longer letter and a USB drive. The second letter contained more details. Daniel revealed that, after a series of business dealings, he had uncovered something far bigger, a network of influential people manipulating companies and economic outcomes. Daniel had accidentally stumbled upon the secrets of powerful figures who did not want to be exposed. And now, for some reason, both his and Emma's lives were in danger. The USB drive held a collection of documents, contracts, and videos proving illegal activities involving major business people and politicians. Daniel had asked Nathan to use his influence to make the information public if anything happened to him. While Nathan processed everything, he heard footsteps outside. Someone knew he was there. Acting quickly, he hid the USB drive and instructed Emma to hide, his heart racing, fully aware that his life had just changed irreversibly. Nathan felt his pulse quicken as he heard footsteps outside the cabin. As a precaution, he took Emma and hid her in a closet in the adjacent room, asking her to stay silent and not come out until he told her it was safe. Remaining silent himself, he peered out the window and saw a hooded figure approaching. Nathan knew this was no casual visitor and instinctively looked for an alternate way out. He couldn't risk confronting someone who might be connected to Daniel's disappearance. As he crept toward the back door, he heard the intruder forcing entry. His priority now was to get out as quickly as possible, but he first had to ensure Emma was safe. He picked her up, and together they quietly made their way into the forest surrounding the cabin, where they hid behind a cluster of thick trees. From there, they watched the hooded figure search the cabin, seemingly looking for something. Emma, visibly frightened, held tightly onto Nathan's hand. His protective instinct was stronger than ever. He felt a new sense of responsibility, a debt to Daniel that he could never ignore. Now, beyond seeking answers, he had to keep Emma safe. After a few minutes, the intruder left the cabin without noticing Nathan and Emma hidden in the trees. The hooded man got into a black car parked in the distance and drove off down the narrow road toward the nearest village. Once the immediate danger had passed, Nathan discreetly pulled out his phone and contacted his personal security, instructing them to arrange a secure location where they wouldn't be found. At that moment, Nathan began to realize the gravity of what Daniel had left in his hands. He knew that the information on the USB drive could threaten powerful people, and the fact that they were already being followed confirmed the seriousness of the situation. However, from that point on, protecting Emma would be just one part of the challenge. He would also have to figure out exactly who was after him and what their next moves would be. When they finally arrived at the hideout arranged by his security team, a secluded house high up in the mountains, Nathan began to go through the files on the USB drive. The information was extensive, revealing a web of corruption involving business moguls, politicians, and even some members of the government. Among the documents, he found coded messages and recordings of secret meetings. Daniel had been embroiled in a deep and dangerous investigation, and it was clear that there were people determined to silence him. While Nathan was reviewing the files, he noticed a pattern in some of the data. Something about the structure of the coded messages reminded him of the logic puzzles he and Daniel used to solve as teenagers. Intrigued, he began deciphering the messages. As hours passed, he started piecing together a dark puzzle. Daniel had been trying to expose a network of money laundering and bribery involving high-ranking executives from major corporations, including a company Nathan had worked for early in his career. The discovery shocked him. He himself was connected to people who might be behind Daniel's disappearance. He felt the weight of latent guilt. He might have disrupted this network earlier, but had never imagined the reach of his own business dealings. In one of the files, he found a direct reference to a man named Mr. Ward, one of the most influential executives in the financial sector, known for his ruthless business tactics. Nathan knew dealing with Ward would be extremely risky. Emma, now calmer, sensed the tension in Nathan and in her soft voice asked, "Dad trusted you, didn't he?" Nathan was speechless for a moment, surprised by the wisdom and maturity this young girl was showing. He realized that, to protect Emma and honor Daniel's trust, he would need to confront the past he himself had helped to build, however dangerous that might be. In the days that followed, Nathan dedicated himself to understanding more about the network of corruption and bribery that threatened both his life and Emma's. He knew that, sooner or later, he would have to face those who were after him. But now, with an unexpected resolve, he was preparing to expose the truth, even if it meant putting everything he'd built at risk. After days in his mountain hideout, Nathan was more determined than ever to seek justice for his friend. But the deeper he dove into the files Daniel had left, the more he realized he was dealing with something far bigger and more dangerous than he'd imagined. The connections between influential politicians and business leaders were deep and complex. And Ward, the executive mentioned in the files, seemed to be at the center of the entire criminal network. One afternoon, as he reviewed a particularly detailed document about a bank transfer, Nathan received a call from an unknown number. Hesitant, he answered. On the other end, a cold, familiar voice echoed, "I hope you're enjoying the files, Nathan. You know, some truths are too dangerous to bring to light, don't you?" Nathan felt his blood run cold. It was Ward. "What do you want?" Nathan replied, trying to stay calm. "I want you to hand over the flash drive and the girl. Don't make things harder than they need to be. You've always been smart, Nathan. You know you don't stand a chance against us," Ward said in a threatening tone. The call ended before Nathan could respond. Ward was sending a clear message. They knew where he was. What Nathan didn't expect, however, was what would happen next. That same night, while he and Emma were sleeping, the house's security was breached. Nathan woke to the sound of footsteps and realized the security cameras and exterior alarms had been disabled. He woke Emma and, with a quick motion, placed her behind a hidden panel that led to an emergency staircase. "Emma, listen. You need to stay here and not come out until I'm back. No matter what you hear, stay quiet, understand?" Emma nodded, her eyes wide but filled with courage. Nathan locked the panel and went down the stairs, listening to the approaching footsteps of the intruders. Turning a corner, he came face to face with two armed men, dressed in black with steely gazes. Before they could react, Nathan used his self-defense skills to neutralize one of the men, but the other fired a shot that grazed his arm. Ignoring the pain, Nathan ran to an alternate exit and, in a risky move, managed to lock the men in a secondary room. He didn't know how long he had until they escaped, but he needed to get Emma out of there. He returned to where the girl was hiding, ignoring the throbbing pain in his bleeding arm, and picked her up, calming her as they fled down the emergency staircase. They descended quickly to the garage level, where Nathan had previously instructed one of his guards to be ready in case of an emergency. As soon as they got in the car, he ordered the driver to take them to the safest place they knew, an isolated property of a friend's, where he believed Ward would have trouble finding them. During the drive, Emma was visibly shaken but maintained a steady gaze. After a moment of silence, she pulled something out of her pocket and handed it to Nathan, a small metal key wrapped in a piece of faded cloth. He looked at her in surprise, and Emma explained, "My dad gave me this and said that if you and I ever had to run, I should give you this key." Nathan looked at the key with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. It was small, with an old and strange pattern engraved at the top, like a personal symbol from Daniel. He unwrapped the cloth and found a small, handwritten note from Daniel. "Nathan, this key unlocks more than you can imagine. It's your final piece. Don't let them stop you." These words left Nathan intrigued. He had no idea what door or vault the key might open, but he knew that somehow it was the final clue Daniel had left for him. Deep down, he sensed he was about to uncover even darker secrets about Daniel, Ward, and his own past. Secrets that would change everything, for him and for Emma. Now he was ready to confront Ward, aware that it would be a dangerous showdown, but one he needed to face to end the nightmare entwining their lives. When they arrived at the secluded mountain house, Nathan knew he had to act quickly. The enigmatic key Emma had given him, along with Daniel's note, was a clue he couldn't ignore. Exhausted but driven by the need to protect Emma and fulfill his promise to his friend, Nathan found a secure place to rest and prepare for the next step. That night, while Emma slept, Nathan examined the key under the dim lamp. The symbol engraved at the top looked familiar, but he couldn't recall where he'd seen it before. He took a photo of the key and sent it to a trusted contact, a private investigator who had helped him in corporate cases in the past. Within an hour, he received a response. That symbol belongs to an old network of bank vaults used by certain elites to store confidential documents. There's an old branch downtown that still uses these keys. Be careful, Nathan. Secrets like this usually attract the worst kinds of enemies. This revelation only intensified the gravity of the situation. The vault likely held something Daniel had hidden as a last resort, and Nathan understood that this could be the key to taking down Ward and his allies. But he also knew that accessing the vault would put him in immediate danger. The next morning, Nathan prepared to leave Emma under protection while he headed to the city, determined to solve the mystery of the key. He calmly explained the situation to Emma, promising he'd return as soon as possible and that she'd be safe until then. Before he left, she looked him in the eyes and said, "My father always said you were the bravest person he knew. I know you can do this, Nathan." Those words moved him in an unexpected way, strengthening his resolve. Upon arriving at the old bank branch, Nathan used his influence to persuade the manager to let him access the vault. With the key in hand, he was led down an underground corridor lined with hundreds of vaults secured in metal chambers. When he inserted the key into the vault marked by the symbol, the sound of gears echoed through the silent room, and the vault door slowly opened to reveal a thick, sealed file and a small voice recorder labeled "Final Confession." Nathan grabbed the contents and hurried out of the bank, aware that Ward likely knew of his presence there. Safe in his car, he opened the file and found photos, documents, and incriminating letters. Daniel had compiled a detailed dossier on Ward's illegal operations and his entire web of corruption. The file included financial transactions, identities of those involved, and even witness statements that would, without a doubt, put Ward and his associates in the crosshairs of justice. Nathan took a deep breath, but there was still the recorder. With a hesitant touch, he pressed play. Daniel's voice came through, laden with emotion. "Nathan, if you're listening to this, it means I went too far. I always knew my work could have consequences, but I never thought I'd put my daughter in danger. I got close to Ward to expose him from within, but I got more entangled than I should have. He knew everything, and now only you can stop this. Publish what you find here, and remember, Emma depends on you. I trust you, brother. See this through to the end." Hearing Daniel's final words, Nathan felt a surge of pain and anger. His friend had entrusted him with his life and his daughter's, and now it was up to him to seek justice. Nathan no longer had a choice. He knew he'd have to expose the evidence and reveal the corruption on a scale even Ward couldn't contain. He organized the material and contacted a trusted investigative journalist with whom he had collaborated in the past. They arranged the details to ensure the dossier would be published in the country's largest newspaper and delivered to the proper authorities. However, before the publication was finalized, Ward learned of Nathan's actions and sent one final threat. If Nathan published anything, Emma would pay the price. That night, facing the threat hanging over him and Emma, Nathan wrestled with a tough decision. But as he looked at the folder of documents and remembered Daniel's words, he knew he couldn't back down. It was the only way to free Emma from this constant danger and honor the sacrifice his friend had made. That night, Nathan knew he could no longer hesitate. Despite Ward's threats, he understood that giving in to fear would mean staying trapped in the web of corruption and danger that had already claimed Daniel's life and placed Emma at risk. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the need to protect Emma and honor his friend's trust. Aware that Ward might try to stop the information from coming out, Nathan devised a careful plan to expose the evidence. He contacted a journalist friend and suggested they set up an automatic, simultaneous publication on multiple platforms, including newspapers and social media, in case Ward attempted to suppress or block the information. It was a risky move, but necessary. Every document would be made public, and Nathan made sure there was a legal support network in place to continue the exposure if anything happened to him. That same night, Emma noticed the tension on Nathan's face and approached him. "Are you going to make those bad men pay, aren't you?" she asked, with a firmness that surprised him. "Yes, Emma. No one's going to hurt you again, I promise." The next morning, Nathan went to his scheduled meeting with Ward in one of the city's luxury offices. Ward, having learned that Nathan had the evidence and was about to release it, had offered him a final chance to negotiate, but Nathan knew it was just a desperate attempt to regain control. He wouldn't let Ward continue his manipulations. When he arrived, Nathan found Ward seated behind an imposing glass desk, his gaze cold and calculating. Ward seemed confident, but Nathan noticed a glimmer of tension in his expression. a weakness he might be able to use. "Nathan, you're a smart man. It's not worth destroying your own life over a foolish friend's mistake. Hand me the flash drive, and no one else will get hurt." Nathan held Ward's gaze, making it clear he wouldn't be intimidated. "You think you can keep destroying lives without paying the price? Daniel trusted me to put an end to this, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've already sent the evidence to the papers. In a few hours, everyone will know who you really are." Ward's expression shifted. He was now clearly losing control. In a threatening tone, Ward stood up, crossing the room toward Nathan. "You're making a mistake that will cost you dearly. Have you thought about what might happen to little Emma?" Ward said menacingly. At that moment, Nathan realized that Ward wasn't just a dangerous man. He was desperate and willing to do anything. But instead of backing down, Nathan raised his head with determination. "If anything happens to me or to Emma, all the evidence is set to release automatically. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's over, Ward." Enraged, Ward tried to lunge at Nathan, but security guards Nathan had hired beforehand stormed into the room, containing the situation. Within minutes, Ward was taken out, arrested with part of the evidence Nathan had prepared. Knowing that Ward would finally be brought to justice, Nathan felt a relief he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hours later, when he returned to Emma, she greeted him with a relieved smile and a tight hug. Nathan realized that he had not only fulfilled a promise to Daniel, but had also found a new purpose: to protect and care for Emma as if she were his own daughter. With Ward in custody and the evidence made public, the scandal broke across all media outlets. Businessmen, politicians, and high-ranking officials were exposed as accomplices in a corruption network that influenced the country's direction. For Nathan, the sense of justice was profound. He felt that he had finally honored Daniel's trust and fulfilled his friend's last request. The journey to protect Emma and bring Ward to justice had been exhausting, but it was worth it. In the days that followed, Nathan and Emma began settling into a quieter routine. Despite everything they had been through together, Emma displayed remarkable resilience for someone her age, though Nathan knew that the absence of Daniel still cast a shadow over her heart. A few weeks later, while Nathan was reviewing some documents at home, he found a yellowed envelope among Daniel's belongings. It was sealed and bore an inscription in Daniel's handwriting: "For Nathan, when everything is over." He opened the envelope, revealing an honest and heartfelt letter. It was a personal message, an account of the motivations that had driven Daniel to act, and a final declaration of friendship and trust. "Nathan, I know we grew distant over the years, but I never stopped trusting you. When Emma was born, I realized the world we lived in was darker than I wanted to admit. I knew that if anything happened to me, she'd need someone who could protect her, and I couldn't think of anyone better for that mission than you. As a friend and as a brother, I chose for life. I always believed you would be there when we needed you. If you're reading this, it's because you faced something no parent would ever want for their child. But thank you for everything. Emma is all that remains of my love and hope, and now I know she'll be safe with you. Live the life I wish I could have lived. Be the protection she deserves. I trust you." Finishing the letter, Nathan felt the depth of the bond he and Daniel had shared. Daniel's loss was irreplaceable, but now there was a greater meaning to everything he'd done. He not only understood, but accepted Daniel's request to protect and guide Emma with the same dedication and love that Daniel himself would have given her. That evening, as Emma played in the backyard, Nathan approached her and knelt beside her, looking into her eyes. "Emma, there's something I wanted to tell you. Your dad, he was always right. I'll always be here for you. I promise I'll take care of you with everything I have." Emma smiled and hugged him. To her, Nathan was already more than a protector. He was a new family. In that embrace, Nathan found renewed purpose, something that money and success could never provide: the chance to start over and care for someone with his whole heart. In the months that followed, Nathan and Emma's lives changed profoundly. The exposure of the evidence against Ward and his corruption network triggered a wave of investigations and serial arrests. Ward, along with many powerful accomplices, was convicted and awaited trial, facing a severe sentence that would permanently remove him from public life. Nathan knew the days of impunity were over, and Daniel's name, though not widely disclosed, had become a symbol of courage and justice among those who knew the truth. Nathan and Emma's relationship also matured. Over time, they learned to rely on each other, building a new family. Nathan, once a solitary man focused solely on work, now found joy in small moments, like reading to Emma at night, helping her with her studies and joining in her games in the yard. Her presence transformed his house, once cold and silent, into a warm, vibrant home. Emma, in turn, began to open up more about her father, sharing precious memories she held close to her heart. With Nathan's help, she felt safe and gradually started to overcome Daniel's loss. Nathan listened patiently, knowing that each memory Emma shared about her father helped her heal from her past. For him, Emma's stories made him feel Daniel's presence like an invisible guide for them both. On a sunny Sunday, while walking in the park, Emma held Nathan's hand and looked at him with a special gleam in her eyes. "Do you think my dad is proud of us?" she asked. Nathan smiled, feeling a peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. "I'm sure he is. He knew you'd be someone incredibly strong and that together we could face anything. He trusted us with this." Emma smiled, gripping Nathan's hand tightly. To her, life with him was safe and full of possibilities. And for Nathan, caring for Emma had become his purpose, something money and power could never replace. In that moment, by her side, Nathan finally felt whole. He now understood that protecting someone meant something much greater. It was about building a new life and sharing a future filled with love and hope. And so they moved forward, knowing they had overcome a difficult past and were ready for a future together, filled with possibilities and the memories they would create side by side. This was Nathan and Emma's journey, a story of friendship, courage, and a new chance for family love amidst adversity. But what about you? What would you do to protect those you love? Share this story with someone special and let us know what impacted you the most. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And make sure to check out other amazing stories popping up here on the screen. I'll see you in the next video.